In the last video, we decided that this would be an addition method problem. The reason neither equation was solved for y. We use substitution when one or both equations solve for y. Addition method is best when the equations are in standard form, ax plus by equals c. Ax plus by equals c. So that's how you can tell which method to use. So if one of the equations is solved for y or solved for x, then use substitution. But if they're in standard form like this, making opposites with the addition method is the easiest. So we have a choice. Do we want to get our x's to cancel? Or do we want to get our y's to cancel? And you're probably like, oh, does it matter? Nope, doesn't matter. But sometimes there's an easier one. And in this one, I would say there's one that's a tiny bit easier. And the reason, there's one that already has opposite signs. The y's are already opposite, so then we don't have to incorporate any negatives. So then when we decide on the y's, we say to ourselves, what's the first number 3 and 5 go into together? 15. So remember, on addition method, you need to make opposites. So I need this to be negative 15. So what do I multiply it by? 5. I need this to be positive 15. So what do I multiply it by? 3. So that's going to be negative 15y. This is going to be positive 15y. And that's the whole idea of the addition method, is make one of the variables opposites. So probably the biggest mistake made on addition method, as I told you when we were learning it in the videos, is students forget to multiply every single term by it. So you do have to do that. And so that leaves me with, don't forget this number over here. So I have 20x minus 15y equals 35. And like I told you when we were learning these, that's the most often forgotten one. Students do these two and they forget that one. So if you ever get a really weird answer on the test, that's the first thing you should look at, is your last two numbers in each line, and make sure you've remembered to multiply them. So for this one, we're going to get 21x plus 15y. See my opposites? That's what's required for the addition method. Opposites that cancel or eliminate, as is its other name, equals 3 times 2, 6. And then this is the addition method for a reason, because our next step is add the two equations, and if you've done it correctly, one of the variables should cancel. So here we get 41x, 15 minus 15, gone. And that's why this method is sometimes called the elimination method too, because we're eliminating one of the variables. And 35 plus 6 is 41. Oh, this is an easy one. So divide by what's in front of the x, and we get x equals 1. So then I go up here and I write my 1 in, just like we did on our videos for this section. And then remember how we said it doesn't matter which equation to go into. I like ones without negatives, so since this one doesn't have a negative, I'm going to pick it. So in place of x, I'm going to put 1. So 7 times 1 plus 5y equals 2. So 7 plus 5y equals 2. Subtract 7, because remember, we're solving for y. So we get 5y equals negative 5. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. And we get y equals negative 1. And we go up here. And then remember, I said usually these count as a lot more points than other problems because they're so long. So I told you it was worth it to check. When we put it into this one, so all we have to do is check it into one equation, and we can walk away and go, yes, I'm absolutely positive I got that right. So to check it, we go into the equation that we didn't use to find the first one, and we put 1 in for x, and -1 in for y, and see if you come up with 7. So 4 times 1 minus 3 times -1. Does that give me 7? 4 plus 3. Ding, 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 ding. Boom. So I can walk away and go, yes, I know I got this one right because I checked it. So I used one equation to find the other letter, and then I used the equation that I didn't use for that to do the check. That way I've checked it into both. And remember, our solution to a system is the point of intersection. So your final answer should always be written as a point. Okay, the back of the page is writing equations, so let's go ahead and look at that. Since there is a very large number of problems on your Module 7 test where you do have to write equations, this is a great page to practice on because it's all the different ways they can word it, the different things they can give. So they're asking for slope-intercept form. So all your final answers should look like y equals mx plus b, y equals mx plus b, y equals mx plus b. So we just did the candy store problem on the other quiz, just like this. If they give you 2 points, you have to find the slope first, because remember, we need a y-intercept and we need a slope. But when it says write the equation, I'm going to get ready my formula. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So the only time you wouldn't use that is if they gave you the y-intercept. See here where they give us the y-intercept? So this one we can go right into y equals mx plus b. But that's the only case. So if one of the points says x equals 0, that means it's a y-intercept and you can go right to the answer. But if one of the points doesn't have x equals 0, that means you don't have the y-intercept, then we go to this. So remember from the last quiz, we said we needed a y, we needed an m, and we needed an x. But we are missing m, so we want to do that first. So -4 minus 2, so second y minus first y, over second x, -6 minus the first x, 3. So that's looking like -6 over -9. I remember a lot of people missing this on the test. 2 reasons. 1, they didn't make the double negative a positive. And 2, they forgot to simplify. So remember, this is a fraction. Fractions have to be simplified. So that should be your first thing. We never leave 2 negatives in a fraction because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And the next thing you should do is go, oh, both of these are divisible by 3. So that means my slope is 6 divided by 3 is 2, 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then pick the point that has the least number of negatives and the smallest number. So there's my x1 and my y1. And I'm ready to plug and chug. So y minus 2 equals m 2/3 times x minus 3. And we're going to be multiplying here. So if you can't do that cancellation in your head, just type in your calculator 2/3 times, so 2 fraction bar 3 times -3, and you see it's -2. So we get y minus 2 equals 2/3 x and minus 2. So positive times a negative is negative. The 3's cancel, so you just get 2. And it's not quite in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y is alone. So I have to add 2 to both sides to get that y alone. And so for my answer, I get y equals 2/3 x plus 2 minus 2 is 0. And you can leave off the 0 or not, but you're going to see down here at the bottom, we kind of like to have that there. It kind of helps as a place marker. So whether you leave it off or not doesn't matter, but it did cancel on both sides. So on this side, I just wrote 2/3 x plus 0. Okay, part B requires absolutely no work because they gave us our main ingredients. There's my M and there's my B, and that's all we need to know to write an equation. So y equals, in place of M, put -2, so -2x minus 8. So no work involved, and I did put one like that on your test, so you will see one. You'll see one of each of these, sometimes more than one of these, but you'll for sure see one of each of these types. So that one took no work, and guess what? The next one doesn't take any work either. Do you know why? It's our special case. So we say to ourselves, vertical line. What's the slope of a vertical line? Oh, there's no skiing, so the slope is undefined. So that's the first thing you should know, it's undefined. Second thing is when you have a vertical line, it only goes through the x-axis. So remember how it's always just one letter, x equals, because it's named by the axis it passes through. So x equals, and you look over here and go, oh, -1. So it does not take any work at all to write an equation for a vertical or horizontal line. Maybe a rough little picture, but you name the vertical and horizontal by which axis they pass through. A vertical line passes through the x-axis, so it's x equals, and then you pull the x coordinate off your point. And it's that simple. No work is required. Okay, this next one gives us a point and a slope, but notice that point's not the y-intercept. So the minute you see this, you want the equation of a line, and because they didn't give us the y-intercept, you should write y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So that's always the equation we use unless they give you the x-intercept, or excuse me, the y-intercept. So this is going to be my x1, this is going to be my y1, this is going to be my m. So y minus -5 equals m, -4 times x minus 1. So the first thing we want to do is make that a positive. And we need to, the directions that put it in slope intercept form, so that means get y alone. So y plus 5 equals, watch your signs here, -4x, +4. And then the last step, subtract 5, subtract 5. And so we get y equals -4x and -1. 4 minus 5, -1. There we go. Nice, huh? So this is an easy page. Okay, a lot of students don't understand the directions on E when I give this in class, and that means they're not understanding systems then if they don't understand those directions, because this is what systems are. Find the point where the lines from part A and part B intersect. So we have y equals 2/3 x plus 0 from part A. And we have y equals -2x minus 8 from part B. So I just looked up here and I'm pulling these two equations. And they want to know, find where those points intersect. So think about that before you go to the next video and see if you can think about what we're going to